Hello, people, and welcome. We will be discussing the fights UFC 262. Pretty exciting card on the weekend. It's actually pretty fucking crazy. Um, Watching from kicking off from the as far as that the start, no, not the start of the card, but the fight that got it going for me. I didn't watch the whole card, but was a Jakkael versus Muniz fight. That fight was pretty crazy. It made me a bit sad actually because I think seeing the even more so seeing the decline of Jakkael. Muniz did a fantastic job. Uh, he seems a little bit mechanical with his stand up, but his jiu-jitsu is very very good. Although, like anything else, people talk about like strikers and that, and them diminishing and not as grapplers, but definitely grappling like any other athletic endeavor has a timeline on it. So, um, I don't think Jacare will be out grappling people the way that he would have was 30, say, now that he's 42 or however old he is. Um, and whilst jiu-jitsu and grappling in general, there's a massive emphasis on technique, but people act like there is with striking, but there is with striking, and there is a massive emphasis with technique with jiu-jitsu, but really like technique is like the best application of your strength. And all of that diminishes as you get older. So that's for sure. So seeing that with Jacare and then seeing, I think it was his humerus that got snapped. Um, just the way that it got caught as well and the way that it snapped. And it's a kind of because I remember back in the day it was Jacare versus Roger Gracie, and he won and he made a name for himself. He already had a huge name, but he made a massive name for himself when Roger broke his he didn't tap and he went on and won. So and he won like yeah, so he won the world title like that and all the Brazilian titles. I can't remember, but and now to see it end like that as well, like it's quite fitting in a way. He's an unbelievable fighter. Just so I'm interested to see what Muniz can do in this middleweight division. I don't know how he'll do against the better strikers in that can grapple up in the upper echelons of the division, but interesting. Feel free to discuss. We can discuss in any order or in a particular order. It's up to you. But yeah, that was mainly my thing there with that one. Obey Smatty. Hi, I'm a fan from France. Okay, thank you for joining us, Obey. Thank you so much. I don't know where in France you live. Rob is not part of the podcast, man. He hasn't part of the podcast for almost a year now. So yeah, so it hasn't got anything to do with the podcast. Beetlejuice, sure, Fab. How are you, sir? Brad Galea says, G'day, Fab. Awesome jiu-jitsu this card. I just started myself 4 months ago, so really enjoyed it. Man, there was some really good jiu-jitsu there on display in various ways. But yeah, man, I'm glad you said. Herbert before says, hey, Fab, BJJ dangerous to train. Most older BJJ guys seem to have all manner of injuries. It's not dangerous to train. It's not like a dangerous thing to train. Like I don't know what would the downhill BMX or mountain biking would be more dangerous. It's not dangerous like that, but it's hard on your body. Like there's no way getting around that. It is hard on your body. Um, but if you go to the right place and you get looked after and you tell people, like say you're an older guy and you want to go in there and train, then yeah, you just don't go mental, and you make sure you partner up with people that don't go mental. It is hard on your body. You can't deny that. There's no getting around that. So people do, yeah, like myself, I'm not old by any standards. I'm going to be 41 this next month, but jujitsu per se like that, like I'll get on the mats, I'll coach some classes, I'll have a roll around if I know the person really well, but I don't no, I don't get on there and I wouldn't just go up and start rolling because it's really hard on my body. Um, Herbert forces could Oliveira be a serious threat to Khabib? It's interesting, because I think someone like Oliveira, when you see him against Islam or Khabib or someone like that, it's interesting because I don't would fair on his back. And in the stand up, it's kind of 50-50 with them and him. So that might be a really interesting the way that it plays out. I'd have to favor both Islam and and Khabib over Charles, just because of their records and whatnot, and who they are in the type of fight that they do. But I definitely see Charles being able to beat them 100%. His submission skills are very, 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 very good. Um, Steve Brown says, I can't stick around, but was good seeing you live. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Tyson Bradley says, thoughts on how terrible the judging was. Um, I don't know, man. I know that judging is a fucking hard sport. There are times I don't want to focus too much on the judging. There are times though when I look at it and I think like, fuck, well, we're watching a different fight. There have been times like we've been here watching it live, and we kind of all there's a consensus agree that X fighter won, and then the other fighter gets it, and like I don't know how that happened. Like I don't know if they mixed the names up. I don't know if I don't know. You know what I mean? I really don't know. Um, how terrible the judging was this card in particular, I don't know. Again, there were a lot of finishes too, so yeah, I don't know. Steve Brown says, "What's best to strengthen the wrists?" It depends. Have you got an injury? Have you? I think some of the best stuff you can do is the actual sport itself, and then derivatives of that sport. I think rope climbing is a really, really good for strengthening your wrists. I think any type of gi work is really good for your wrists. So, but rope climbing is very, 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 very good for the wrists. Um, yeah. Herbert before says, do MMA athletes need to lift weights, or are calisthenics good enough to keep strong? Again, lifting weights doesn't necessarily have to be as in regards to you doing huge amounts of like very heavy deadlifting or super heavy bench pressing, which I'm not against, by the way. But your lifting weights might be for you to be able to strengthen the joints, strengthen the muscles around the joints, rather stabilize a joint rather than strengthen it, stabilize a joint. So all of that can come from the lifting of weights as well. Um, and again, you'd have to define calisthenics, and as far as like it's all resistance training as well. So that you wouldn't have to do weights per se. Um, Herbert before says, is doing rounds of your specific martial art the best conditioning for the average martial artist? Um, I think if you are just an average guy that's just doing jujitsu for argument's sake, yeah, then doing rounds is going to be the best conditioning you can possibly do for sure. Herbert before says the best form of self defense actually sprinting, probably, man. That and not even that, having self awareness and awareness of your surroundings probably the best form of self defense, and you probably won't even have to sprint because you won't put yourself in that position. Um, Drew says, do you have any thoughts about round times, 10-minute rounds, no limit, etc.? Me personally, I'd like to see one 25-minute round. That's me. Just because I think you get the best. It's closer to what a real fight would be. Like you could either finish it in 3 minutes or it's going to keep going. Herbert before says, best martial arts for self defense after 6 months of training. I think boxing, honestly, after 6 months of training, you're talking about. Um, Simply because you'll learn how to punch straight, which is, is huge. You don't, and it's you're talking about self defense. Like I grappled more than I did striking, but if you're asking me as far as like just a like straight self defense, you did it for 6 months, 3-4 days a week. You'll learn to punch straight and not involve yourself on the ground and not involve yourself in those sort of situations. That doesn't mean that you won't or that somebody won't come and grab you and you're going to fall on the ground. But if you're asking me, like, how to punch effectively, most situations are going to start with you and the person facing each other or being close to each other, and punches will be thrown. If you can punch straight, it's going to make a massive difference. Of course, jujitsu, of course, judo, wrestling, any and all of those. You're asking me like a crash course, 6 months. Boxing, it's got just you're focusing on just one thing, your hands and your footwork and everything as well, but you're focusing on one thing. If you just have 6 months to train. Now, if you said to me, what would I recommend overall? I'd say to you, pick a grappling martial art that you like, judo, wrestling, or jiu-jitsu, and then pick a striking art that you like, and that's going to give that you're going to be pretty much covered. But if I had to pick one, 6 months training, it'd be boxing. It'd be just be boxing. Not now. When you say self defense, I'm assuming you mean you're like an accountant that goes to work and comes home. I'm not. That's and somebody might try and grab, push you or something at the train station, and you have to punch them. That's what I'm assuming you mean. If you're talking about you're a guy that's working nights and is a bouncer, and that's what the kind of self defense you're talking about, then boxing in and of itself is not going to do it for you. Herbert before says best martial arts for general fitness. Again, a few things come into mind, like come into play here. If are you going to be, because like jujitsu or wrestling will get you fit, dude. Wrestling will get you fit, but it'll also take a massive toll on your body. All the grappling arts will, judo, jujitsu, you'll get fit, super fit doing them, but they'll take a toll on your body. But the striking arts like boxing or kickboxing, you don't have to spar, so the wear and tear on your body is going to be minimal. So you got Fred says, hi, I'm from New York City. Love the channel, Fab. Fuck, love you, man. Thank you for being here. Um, Sub 10 says, hello, Fab. My friends want to see Geichi versus Chandler, Oliveira versus winner of Dustin and Connor, and Benil versus Dan Hooker. What about Rafael dos Anjos? I think he's a real threat. Man, I want to talk about the fights a little bit. So let's and I mean, I love that you guys are asking all these questions about martial arts and everything, but let's try and talk about the fights first, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about all that stuff. Now, Geichi versus Chandler to me in lightweight division is an insane fight. Um, Two guys. I think Justin Gaethje is actually, in my opinion, a little bit more technical nowadays. Especially, I think he employs that a little bit more than Chandler does. Chandler's very tactical. It's not the same as being very technical. Chandler's got a few things that he does well, and he rinse repeats them, and he's very good at it. He's got that right hand down the pipe that he does, but to the body, right hand to the body, and he likes to switch his steps and come in with that left hook. It's one of the main things that he does. Also throws that right hand to the head, and he's got some really tidy wrestling, good grappler. And he displayed good grappling against Oliveira as well, because Oliveira had him in a triangle, back triangle. Um, it's got to be the most controlling position in MMA. Like if I could pick a somewhere to start with someone, I would pick that body triangle and take the back and body triangle. That's what I would pick. Um, and he got out of that against Oliveira. You know, I think he could give Geichi problems with taking Geichi down and getting on top of Geichi. But stand up wise, both got heavy hands. That's crazy. I kind of think that Chandler, his way to win there would be to take him down and try and have his way with Geichi. I think because Geichi off his back doesn't have that level of grappling. Like his grappling is very very good in general. Don't get me wrong, All American wrestler, and I'm sure he knows he knows how to do things. But on his back, his jujitsu off his back is not a high level. And Chandler has shown that he knows what to do on the mat. So that's very interesting. Um, Oliveira versus the winner of Dustin and Connor. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's going to happen, isn't it? I think Oliveira is one of those guys that I think a lot of people can beat him, especially after watching that fight with Chandler. But I don't think a lot of people will. You know what I mean? Like they might, but he's also got a lot of ways to beat you as well. His stand-ups are really good. His ground game's unbelievable. He's got good wrestling in his own right. And I just want to talk about that fight a little bit before we go down a rabbit hole of different things. Like I was really, really impressed. Like the way that what I thought would happen is what kind of happened. Like whoever dictated in the middle was going to be able to get their best game off, and they did. But what was interesting was, first of all, Chandler's stance is really long. Chandler's got a long stance. He's a short guy with a long stance, but it's narrow. Like like forward, backward to forwards, it's long. but side to side, it's a narrow stance, and that leaves him really, really susceptible to the calf kick. Exemplified by Dan Hooker before he got knocked out, and then by Charles Oliveira, and he knocked him off balance. Then what he was doing was coming down the pipe, right hand to the body, and Charles was waiting for him with a check hook, with that left check hook that he throws, and he throws it really, really well. Chandler wasn't. When you throw that right hand, you kind of want to roll under it, and he wasn't really displaying a lot of that kind of lateral movement where he was going under it. He did catch him with a left hook. He did catch him with a left hook in one of those exchanges, and that's what rocked Oliveira. But Oliveira was doing a lot of interesting things, man. Like he's throwing that teep kick and getting that distance. He's throwing the push kicks. He's throwing the calf kicks, and then he was pulling Chandler in on a like a collar and tie kind of thing, and it was interesting because Chandler being the more stronger guy, the more powerful guy, I think that left Charles a little susceptible to getting hit himself with one of those. It was just so interesting, man. Such an interesting fight because you did see Oliveira take Chandler down. Whether or not Chandler was, pulled guard because of the guillotine and was going for the guillotine himself, or he got caught in too deep and he thought, I'm not going to up this takedown, whatever it was. But he went for the guillotine. Oliveira got out. Chandler couldn't sweep him. Chandler didn't panic. Oliveira took his back, sunk the body triangle in. So now both of these guys, everything they wanted to happen happened, through in that first round. I mean, up to this point, everything Oliveira wanted to happen happened. Put the body triangle on, had it, couldn't finish it, but then Chandler gets out of that. And when he gets out of it, he was able to start, mounting some offense, and he wasn't scared to be on the ground, Charles. When Charles managed to get up, Charles also used like the deep de la Riva. He used a whole bunch of stuff, the up kicks, all of that stuff. The way he used it as well was really, really phenomenal. When they got up though, and then Chandler, what he wanted to happen happened. Chandler clocked him, dropped him. Charles was more or less out on his feet. Chandler couldn't finish that, and Charles survived. I don't know, and I'm not saying he would have done this. I'm saying I don't know if Chandler had have let him get up. Would that have been a different fight? Would he have been able to finish Charles? Who knows? But that's not. He did that wrong, or he should have done that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like anything can happen. It's a fight, and then Charles comes out in the second round and stones him. You know what I mean? Like that fight was insane. It was really, really insane. So, in as far as winner of Dustin and Connor, yeah, I mean that's pretty insane. I'd love to see it. Dariush versus Dan Hooker is pretty insane too, because I think Dan Hooker's stand up is a lot better than Dariush's, but I think that Dariush on top is a lot better than Dan Hooker. If he's able to get Dan Hooker down, I think he can give a lot of fits to Dan Hooker, a lot. But Dan's very, very, very tough, very physically tough. I don't know that he'll finish Dan Hooker. I don't even know how to take him down and hold him down, to be honest with you. But that will be an interesting fight, and I do think Dos Anjos is in there as well. So I want to see Islam as well in that mix. I want to see Dos Anjos, yeah. So somebody here, Ethan Power says, who should Chandler fight next? Personally, I feel Geichi has been out for a while and doesn't have any opponent at the moment. Well, yeah, I guess that's kind of what we were just talking about then. I'd love to see Chandler and Geichi get after it for sure. Juice says maybe have Felder for someone. Is he still in it? I do not know, man. I do not know. Rob McKenzie says, what age do you think it's reasonable for a child to start BJJ? Again, I think you have to ask yourself why you want your kid to do a martial art. Like my daughter's 1.5. She's always been on the mats one way or another, and I don't tell her to or make her do anything. but she will mitts up now like this for me to hit the mitts. Sometimes she'll ask me to hold the mitts up for her. Just a sec. Sorry, I had to kick my dog out. Sometimes she'll ask me to hold the mitts. She loves going on the mats. She loves being on the mats. Um, I want her to do martial arts, whether it's BJJ, judo, wrestling, whatever, um, for self defense, for her own sake. So I don't have a thing where I want her to go out and be world champion or anything. So from that, why do I say that? Because from that perspective, then it becomes it's just something for her and I to do together. It's something for her and I to do for fun, and I want her to know that training martial arts is fun. So I think you can start that from the day dot. You know what I mean? You can start that straight away. If you're looking for them to get results and the rest of it, you're not going to see that. It's not going to be transferable. Like whether or not they're a gun at 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, and what they're going to do when they're adults, you know? So I think it's reasonable for you to start practicing martial arts with your child as soon as they can walk, basically, you know? BJJ in a formal class, you know, take them there once a week when they're 5, 6. I think that's pretty reasonable. I know there's judo classes. My daughter will start when she's 3. She's 1.5. She started gymnastics not long ago, like what 3 4 weeks ago. She started doing gymnastics, and all these things that she does them not because I want her to be a world champion in gymnast or martial artist, just because I know that it's good for her, and I know that it's gonna. There's, you know, there are so many other factors that warrant her to do it. Not the fact that I want her to be a world champion in any of them. Second start. Subtaping. If a 23-year-old joins a boxing gym for the first time and trains 3 times a week for 3 months, is that enough for a fight? I don't know, man. That's something you have to ask the coach that you're at. Because that, you know, look, the way I understand amateur boxing as well is that there's even in Australia, anyways, amateur boxing is pretty big. Like there's novice divisions, there's more advanced divisions, there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. So um 3 times a week for 3 months, is that enough for a fight? I mean, you can have a fight, and you're gonna have if all you want to do is have one fight, yeah. And but then there's probably other things you could do, like a corporate boxing fight or something like that. Would probably be more up your alley because you don't want to fight. You don't want to go in and fight a kid. If you're 23 years old, training 3 times a week for 3 months for your first fight, you don't know who you could be fighting. You could be fighting an 18-year-old kid that's never had a fight, but has been training 5 days a week for the last 4 or 5 years, but he was playing football or something, and then you eat that kid for your debut. So you'd probably want to make sure that you're boxing someone that's at the same kind of level as you. If all you want to do is knock that off your bucket list, then yeah, probably making sure that you're in the right sort of setting, that you're not setting yourself up to get a beating either. That's important. Um, Juice says 1 25-minute round. Interesting. 1 more minute. Final. I mean, that's crazy. That's why people talk about predictions and they act like they fully know. Like you don't know, dude. Like anything can happen in a fight, and especially at the upper echelons where everyone has very high skills. Um, you saw that both these guys got the fight to where they both wanted it, and neither one of them was able to finish it in the first round. It was a crazy fight, crazy fight. Herbert before says, "What's your favorite martial art to watch?" Judo is beautiful in my opinion. I other than mixed martial arts, because I really enjoy watching mixed martial arts. If you're talking about a purest sport, I really enjoy. Although I've never had a chance to practice it, is folk style wrestling. I really like watching that. I think the way they flow in folk style and the escapes and the rides and whatnot, I really enjoy watching folk style wrestling. Murtaza Aki says RDA versus Islam. For sure. That'd be a great fight. Um, Herbert before says, do you foresee Islam being the champ? Do you think he'll be there for a while? I think Islam will definitely be there for a while. I definitely think he'll be there for a while, but I don't know if he'll be champion. I mean, he can definitely be a champion, but to be a champion, you have to have a lot of factors riding your way as well. You know what I mean? It's not just always based on your skills. You know, you could just like say Charles now. If Charles had of say he had for whatever reason lost the Tony fight, like just ran into a knee, that might have been it for Charles. He may never have gotten a shot at the title. You know, he'd already won a whole bunch of fights in a row, and he wasn't getting looked in, and then he got his title shot, and he fought and he won. So I definitely think Islam can be a champion. Will he be a champion? I don't know. Frankie says, when am I going to take my belt back from Rob in VR boxing? That belt's mine, my friend. That belt is mine. Thank you so much for your support, Frankie. I really appreciate it, mate. Tyson Bradley, 2 judges scored the first round, 10-8 Chandler, and 1 judge scored it 30-27 Grundy. I don't understand how fighters, even refs, are held accountable, but judges continue to get away. Poor judging. Um, I think that I think that number one is it's fucking hard. Let's kick off with that. Judging is hard, man. It's not easy. Refereeing and judging, I'm telling you right now, it's fucking hard. I wouldn't do it. That isn't to excuse some of that stuff. Could the Chandler fight have been scored 10-8? Not by me. I wouldn't give that a 10-8 round. I just want to clarify that. Playing devil's advocate, could the fact be that he almost finished Charles be a 10-8? Maybe. I think that Charles did enough that wasn't a 10-8 round. That's my opinion. But in fairness, Charles didn't hurt Chandler in that first round. I don't know. I don't see the 30-27 Grundy. I don't see how that happened, but that's, I don't. I think that there are judges that are incompetent. I definitely do think that. I think that I don't think that the judging at all times is great. But I honestly don't want to focus too much on that. This is because I feel that people focus on the judging a lot, and they go, this could have cost this guy, da 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 da. But then there's guys like Charles that have to win 9 in a row to win a belt, and dudes that can fight 2 fights, be out for 3 years, not have a fight, have 2 fights, and then win fight for the belt. The judging's pretty bad, but there's a lot of other shit that people are overlooking, and they just focus on the judging. The judging's pretty bad sometimes, for sure. But I also think, man, honestly, that if you have 1,000 fights, don't get me wrong, man. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sticking up for the judges or any. I'm just being real. There's 1,000 fights, and there's 100 bad calls, like 100 bad judging calls. It's pretty fucking bad. It's 100 fights that should have gone the opposite way. But there's 900 that they picked right. I don't think that the judging's like wrong half the time. I don't think that the judging's wrong 80% of the times. But when they get it wrong, they fucking get it wrong, dude. They do a big effort. I don't know what you're going to do with it. I don't think having more judges is going to help. When you have again, I'm not going to get political, but when you have an election, half the country is not happy with it, almost no matter what country you're going. And that's as many voters as you can possibly have. So it's yeah, I don't know. It's not there is some pretty piss poor judging though, I'll give you that. Juice says I was impressed with Chandler's BJJ. Yes, so was I. I said he's got an uncanny ability. I said it before the fight. He's got an uncanny ability to land on top, to finish on top. I didn't think he would be able to do that with Oliveira, but he did. So I was really impressed. Frankie says that first round could have been a sub or a TKO for either. Crazy night. It was really, really insane, man. The way that they fought. Like I said, I gave a little rundown of it, a little recap of that earlier on. I don't know as much technical as strikers. He's quite tactical, but he's tactical, but he doesn't have a whole bunch of other things to do in his arsenal. He does a few things really, really well, and then he kind of slots them in tactically, which I'm impressed by that. But he doesn't do a whole bunch of stuff. Like he's got his right hand to the body, left hook, switch step, left hook, right hand over the top, overhand right. Um, and he does them well and mixes them up. And the thing is, man, this is what people don't get. You pay a massive price, but if you guess wrong what Chandler's doing, because he does hit like a truck. And that fight could have been over very easily in that first round. Mason Klatt says, I was impressed with Oliveira's ability to not get finished when he was rocked. He moved his head and pulled guard. Sadly, Chandler got rocked and mostly stood there or ran along the fence. Yeah. I mean, it just depends, dude. It all depends, It all depends how you get caught. You saw that with what's his name? Burgos when he fought. Like you don't know how shots affect fighters. There's different ways of getting rocked. There's different parts of your head that if you get hit, you feel a certain way and you don't. And even when you see the Burgos fight, like he got hit, he looked fine, and 5 seconds later he wasn't. So I don't want to get into that too much with I think Chandler has a tendency to do that, to hug the fence when he gets hurt a little bit like that. But I don't know how many shots he was off from finishing Charles either. You know what I mean? So it was pretty. I was really impressed with Charles' ability to not get finished. And he did a fantastic job. Fantastic. Juice says, was that a perfect check hook by Oliveira? Was it a check hook? Sorry, I'm a casual. A check hook is generally when the person's coming forward and the person comes into that space, and as you're moving back, you throw that hook and you catch them on the way in. You can do it when you're going the other way, but in my opinion, that one with Charles wasn't so much a check hook, the one that he landed on Chandler. But it was right on the button there. It was a perfect punch. Doesn't have to be moving backwards. The hook there. Kenahuna says, Sup, Fab. How are you, my brother? How are you? Thank you for joining us. Hanoi Tripper says, do you think Barbosa can make a good run at the title and even challenge guys like Max Qatar and Volko? Here's the problem for Barbosa, I think. Barbosa, and we'll talk about the Burgos fight, while we're doing this with Barbosa. Barbosa and Burgos, you have to pressure Barbosa because when Barbosa's in his stance, very strong man, very explosive. He'll beat every single person in that division or in the division above if you let him stand. If you have to run Barbosa back, because when you run Barbosa, and it's not easy either because he's got the wheel kicks that he does not, but still, once you run him back and you can kick with Barbosa a little bit, because you kick, he has to check or get out of the way. And when Burgos kicked and he kicked Barbosa, he was actually having success. You have to kick with a kicker. You have to. That doesn't mean that you stand and have a kicking war, but you have to make that guy move his legs. You can't let a guy that kicks sit or stand in his sense and tee off on you with those kicks. You can't. You have to make him move back, and you have to be able to kick. Yeah, if you win kick him, he has to react. He either has to check it or move out of the way, but he breaks his stance. When he breaks his stance, you have options to do other things, whether it's use your hands, go for a takedown, whatever. Or if you kick him and you know he's going to return the kick, he returns the kick, you have options for a takedown or for other combinations. What I believe with Burgos, one, I think Burgos should probably look at going up. That I do think that. He's a big boy in that division. He showed off a fantastic chin. I don't know how good his chin would be up the next division. You know what I mean? Because that's sucking a lot of fucking moisture out of his brain, that weight cut. That's one thing with Burgos. The other thing is he stood in the pocket, and it's kind of what happened with Hooker and Barbosa as well. They stood in the pocket and fought that fight with Barbosa, and Barbosa his punches are not the same as what his kicks are. How the stupid amount of force and torque he gets in his kicks is crazy. But if you stand there, he'll damage you way too much. He will really, really damage you. And it's he'll either knock you out like flat out, or he'll cause so much damage, like you saw with Hooker, where he just slowly just finished it. And it was the same thing with Burgos. So you have to be able to move Barboza back, take him out of his stance. And if you can take him out of his stance, then you can start to do some stuff to him. Then you can start. He's not the same fighter when you've got him moving. And he's another guy kind of like running the outside of the cage to get his stance back. But while he's doing that, he's not in his stance and he's not a threat. And that's why guys like Khabib, Kevin Lee, and that had a lot of success with him. Even Benil Dariush, before he ate the flying knee, they have a lot of success moving him back. Tony Ferguson, all of those guys. So you ask me, can he make a good run and can he be a challenge? What I said sounds like I'm saying this is all you have to do to beat Barboza. This isn't fucking easy to do. Like guys like Kevin Lee and Khabib still had to wade through some shots. Kevin Lee almost got finished by him. So when we're looking at that, can he beat guys like Max, Qatar, and Volko? It'd be very hard. It'd be very, very hard because all of those guys can move him backwards. All of those guys have really good gas tanks, really good chins. Like they can box, they understand striking. Volko in particular has very good aggressive wrestling, offensive wrestling. And they all hit hard. They all hit well. Max doesn't have like the biggest one shot knockout, but he's got really good awkward timing, and he creates false distances, and he hits you from different angles. And don't think just because he doesn't knock you the fuck out with one shot that those shots are not hard. Those shots are hard. They hurt you. They're 4-ounce gloves. They're coming straight to your face. You feel that, and you feel that after a while. I wouldn't write Barboza off because he can knock anyone out, but I think that those guys know to keep Barboza moving backwards, and that's what they'll do. Okay. Bolo says, Fab, you're back. I am back. Sorry, guys. I have to skip a couple because otherwise I'm not going to get through anyone. And I want to talk about the actual fights that happened on the weekend. Mason Clatt, add juice. It's tough to say because when you're rocked, you're not all there. But mostly movement, threatening the clinch, and creating a barrier with push kicks would be my idea. Look, man, it just depends how you get rocked. I think you are right with that, Mason. It really depends. And the thing is, man, that another thing is creating that space. I think the way if Chandler, if he had circled off, he tried to run off along the edge of the cage, but he couldn't do it. But if he had gotten free there and then, he probably would have had enough time to get his senses again. So it's hard. You're asking me what should a person do, and I think clinching or grabbing sometimes when you're hurt is not the best thing either. So creating that space, the guard that's why having a good active guard is very good as well, because it gives you that space and allows you to kind of clear your head. But your guard has to be a fair bit better than the other guy's offensive grappling. Otherwise, he will smash you on top as well. When you're rocked, man, it just depends how badly you're rocked. That's the truth of the matter. I wish I could give you like this. This is what you do, man. If you're rocked and you're in La La Land and you're trying to clinch, you're trying to grab the guy, maybe it'll work. You'll be able to take the guy down, maybe, but it's very hard, man. It is very, 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 very hard. It just depends how badly you are rocked. And there's different types of getting hurt. Yeah, so it just depends. People criticize Chandler because it didn't work out. He went along the edge of the cage. He didn't get out, and he got cracked. But Oliveira did a really good job of surviving. But dude, he was only 1 or 2 shots. If Chandler had landed 1 or 2 shots flush, people would be criticizing Oliveira and saying he shouldn't have laid on his back. He should have tried to get up. And that's the fight game. But yeah, absolutely putting a barrier between yourself and the person, yes. Bolo, dang Fab, happy to be back online. Big time fan of discussions and commentary. Hope he can become UFC Australian liaison one day soon. Thank you, Bolo. Bolo, appreciate it, man. JG says, Fab, you're the analyst commentators that the MMA community truly deserves. Thank you, sir. It's very, very flattering, man. Very flattering. JG says, what's the success rate of that slam that Michael tried to pull off on Charles when he had his back? I don't think very high if you're about the same weight. I think Rico Rodriguez did it to Marcelo Garcia in ADCC back in the day, and it was banned. Like, you couldn't do that. You couldn't slam successful. But Rico Rodriguez weighed, honestly, probably 140 kilos, and Marcelo Garcia must have weighed 80. Um, so like that, it's good. Like, but two guys around the same weight, it's not the same. You wouldn't have a huge amount of success. You might get lucky and like, you kind of smash his head into the mat, and your head comes in on the back of it. But I don't think it's a huge success rate. Not like that. Like you might, like I mean, like I said, you might get one or two people. Something tells me though that Chandler's that kind of guy. Guys like Chandler and Geichi are pretty wild. So for them it's a little bit different. Kenahuna says, "Why do fighters run rather than charge? Should Chandler have gone for a takedown while Oliveira chased him?" Again, it depends. It depends how badly rocked you are. It depends where you're at. Depends who you're fighting. Because again, if Chandler, this is the thing. People talk. I'm not saying it's you. I'm not saying you're saying this, but people talk with revisionist history. With revisionist history in mind. Had Chandler been able to take one or two more steps, moved away, whatever, and cleared his head and restarted, we would not be having this discussion. Had Chandler have shot in a bit dazed on a guy like Oliveira and landed straight into a guillotine, everybody would be criticizing him, saying, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you put your hands up and circle? Maybe he should have put his hands up and circled. Maybe instead of putting hands up like this or running kind of thing how he did, maybe putting something up like a Philly shell or something like that and running there. I don't know. Maybe that would be different. So that the side when you're trying to run away, maybe. But I'm saying this with revisionist history in mind. Where it all began. Yeah, and it's why do fighters run rather than charge? Because, dude, if you're hurt and you charge at someone, the guy's just pick you off. He's going to land it on you pretty bad. Where it all began. Can't stay for this one. Got to work starting, but just wanted to send something praise your way. Have a good afternoon, bro. Thank you. Where it all began, man. I appreciate it so much, man. Thank you so much. Alex Collar says, Fab, have you seen Adrian Yana's fight? Kid has some insane hands. I have seen him. I'm really impressed by him, actually. I was watching, we called one of his fights the other day. Yeah, so I'm pretty impressed by him. Tyson Bradley, if you were coaching Chandler, would you have suggested he stood back up and looked for this finish on his feet? I can't say that, dude, because I don't know Chandler. I can say it like as a commentator. I was watching it going, I think he should have stood up. I do think that. But if I'm his coach, maybe I've seen him on the mats with some high level jiu-jitsu guys. I'm pretty sure some really high level jiu-jitsu guys. And Burns was in that camp for a while as well. So I'm sure, they might have crossed paths and I might have seen him with Burns and gone, fuck, he's doing fine with Burns. He's doing fine with a million other guys that you don't even know their names, So I can say that, but I don't know Chandler and I don't know his coaches and I don't know his training partners. I don't know other guys that he's trained with. So it's you can say it as a commentator real quick, like I think you should let him stand up, blah blah blah. But to criticize him or criticize his coaches and say, oh, you know what, they did this and they did that, they should have done this, this is what he should have done, is a bit off because unless you know them, it's very hard. I don't know Chandler. It would seem to me that maybe letting Charles back up might have helped, but at the same time, man, he was probably only one shot away on the ground, and Chandler probably didn't feel any danger on the ground. So it's not like he got out grappled either, you know. So yeah, not I don't necessarily think that I don't think he did something wrong, especially because he didn't look outclassed on the ground. If anything, I was super impressed by him on the ground, and I was kind of more impressed with him on the ground, and because I already knew Charles was good on the ground, but I was more impressed with Charles standing up. I was kind of like flipped it the other way. Um, so yeah, no, I wouldn't say, oh, you should have thing, because I don't know. Pip Dennison says late again, Hefe, sorry, brother. No, thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. DJ Half-Court Violation says, given that there are so many UFC champions in their early to mid-30s, is there still hope we see Jose Aldo win a belt again? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Aldo will probably finish his career out at bantam. I think, again, it's like what I said about some other guys. Like with Aldo, though, I can still, I can still see him there. I think Aldo would have been a better bantamweight back in the day when he was a great featherweight. I think it would have been good to have seen him solidify that featherweight belt that he did, and then maybe have moved down to bantamweight earlier. And I think we would have had a really, really strong two division champion. Again, this is knowing him without having anything to think. Although I have seen him in real life, and the one thing that made me do a double take when I saw him was how little he was. He was like a little guy. Like Volkanovski's like a big fucking dude. Like Volkanovski's like a middleweight, and you chopped his arms off at the elbow and chopped his legs off at the knees, and he's a fucking middleweight. Like he's like a real thick, dense dude. Aldo's like an athletic, like a real athletic, like but little guy, like a real athletic, little strong, muscular guy. So I would have liked to have seen him at bantamweight earlier. Now my thing is, do you see Aldo? Could he beat Peter Yan or Aljamain Sterling on any given day? Possibly. Do I see him running through bantamweight and then beating both those guys? Possibly not. That's the truth. Jose Aldo's one of my favorite fighters of all time. One of my favorite fighters. And I think he's still one day. You're asking me, do I see him being champion? If they gave him a title shot against someone, I wouldn't overlook him because I'd be like, no, this guy he can definitely win the belt. But do I see him running through the guys at bantamweight in the upper echelons and winning 3 or 4 in a row against the top guys, including Aljamain and including Peter Yan? No, I don't. That doesn't mean he won't win a belt or that he can't win a belt again. Jack the Ripper says, I just got home from work. It's 7:20 a.m. here, so I'm off to bed. I'll watch this one tomorrow. Love you, Uncle Fab. Love you, Jack the Ripper, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for always supporting, man. Salzin says, thank you, my friend. Anna Seed says, if Mahashev beats Moises, he will crack in the top 7. As Felder Hooker don't have a win in a long time. So after Moises, can he get a fight with Chandler or Darius? I don't see why not. I think Islam can fight pretty much whoever he wants if he wins the next fight. Yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to get a fight with any of those guys. He's got a big name, like there's a tension on his name, He can definitely fight, and everyone's watching him, man. So he's definitely, I wouldn't even call him the dark horse, just that right now all the lights shining on a bunch of guys there. But everyone, like if he fought Charles Oliveira tomorrow, everyone would tune in to watch that fight for sure. Anasid says, do you think Islam is Charles' nightmare matchup, as he may be the only one who can neutralize Charles' ground game? Having said, dude, Chandler did really well on the ground. He did really, really well on the ground with Charles. I don't know, because what I said earlier about Oliveira, let's say against someone like Khabib or Islam, is that like they know how good he is on the ground. Do they back themselves that their top game is better than his bottom game? Maybe. One other thing that really surprised me with Charles was how big he was. He's got I trained with Charles about 11 or 12 years ago. He was a kid in Brazil. I went there and watched him. He fought 3 nights. He fought 3 times in the one night and knocking dude with flying knees. He was fantastic, phenomenal. But he's really, really grown. And what it was, when he got into the UFC, he was pretty undercooked. He was still raw. He was a young guy. So you've seen him grow up in the UFC. You've seen him. You didn't. It's not like Charles came in and he won Jungle Fight. He won a bunch of fights like that. But a bunch of belts like that, rather. But he hadn't. You really saw him grow up in the UFC. You didn't see him lose fights outside of the UFC and then come in and be like ready. Like say a Chandler, for instance. Chandler, you just saw him in the UFC, but he'd had a whole bunch of fights before that. Um, so they know how good he is, how resilient he is. Um, and by resilient, I mean as far as his career as well. Like he's been in there for a long time. It'll be interesting because I don't know how gung ho they will be at trying to take him down and win from the top, and then on the bottom. I mean, on the feet, it's not. Charles is good, man. So those guys, he might actually be a bad matchup for them comparatively to everybody else, because there aren't a lot of other guys with that level of jiu-jitsu running around. And Charles is very, very good at jiu-jitsu. Had Charles not have gone into MMA, his jiu-jitsu was very good, very competitive in Brazil, like very, 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 very good. He could have done some amazing things in the jiu-jitsu circuit, but he didn't. He was fighting. Um, he went into fighting, but he's a legit jiu-jitsu guy. Like he could have competed in jiu-jitsu, more than competed. So I don't know. I don't know that it would be that simple for them. I don't know that. I don't know what game plan they would come up with either. That I'd be interested in seeing. Um, Ledger says Charles had Chandler's back locked in good. Couldn't have finished Chandler that round too. Definitely not a 10-8. No, he could have. I'm not arguing for a 10-8 anyways, but and I do agree with what you're saying actually. But when you say he could have finished Chandler, he couldn't have because he didn't. And so you got to see that get played out, if you know what I mean. Whereas with Chandler's one, he was ending shots, and the round ended, so you don't know what would have happened, if you get what I mean. With Charles got the body triangle and Chandler got out of it with no real damage done to him. And that is the criteria. The main criteria to give it is dominance and damage. And it wasn't really like he had the back, but Chandler ended up getting out of it. I don't agree on it being a 10-8, by the way, on that criteria. If you're telling me it was a 10-8 because he almost got finished, then I get it. And also because you got to understand the rules as well. We're talking about, like, say for example, in boxing, if you take a knee, it's a 10-8. So if you get dropped, it's going to be a 10-8 round. Or you get battered, it'll probably be a 10-8 round. But if you get dropped, it's going to be a 10-8 round. So I don't think it was a 10-8 round. Me personally, Fab, I don't think it was a 10-8 round. But depending on what criteria is being used or even what's being told to the judges, I don't know. JG said Charles said he would go back down to 45 to fight for the belt if Dana let him. Would you say Charles could be described as an upgraded Ortega? I don't know. I don't know. But I'll say this. I don't think Charles, he could make the weight. I don't think it'll be healthy, and I don't think you'd see the same Charles. I think what he looks like at 155 versus what he looked like at 145, not 145 at the end. I mean, not 140. Like, what do you look like 145 when he first started, and what he looks like at 155 today? Two completely different people. I wouldn't want to see Charles cut the weight. I know that cutting to 145 would have killed him, dude. It would have been so hard for him. He's not a little guy, man. He's my size. So I don't see him going to 145, to be honest with you. Is he an upgraded Ortega? He's similar to Ortega in that they can both strike and they've got really good jiu-jitsu, but the way they fight is very different. So I don't know. That's kind of an insult to Ortega, and I think Ortega's done enough, to warrant that level of respect from everyone. But it's a bit different. They're different. On paper, they're very similar because, like I said, good strikers, good jiu-jitsu, but they they come at the fight different. You know what I mean? Charles is more almost close to like a Yair Rodriguez, more unpredictable with what he's going to do. He's not as flashy and as crazy as Yair, but he's got that element to him. He's got X factors to what he's going to do. You know, he doesn't have all the spinning attacks and all that stuff that Yair does necessarily, but he's got an element like an X factor. We're going to do, you know, flying knees. He's going to throw kicks, teep kicks, combinations. He's going to jump into submissions and go. Ortega, in my opinion, is a little bit more reserved with how he fights like that. Tyson Bradley says, totally agree, Fab. Thanks for your opinion. Thank you, sir. Brutus M says, hola, Fab. Hola, Brutus. Ethan Power says, where does Tony go from here? Should he be given one last fight against someone closer to the bottom end of the top 15? Or should he think about retiring after all? He's 37 years old. Again, I can't say people should retire or they shouldn't or whatever, but I just get back to this, man, with people. When you're fighting, you have to ask yourself, when you ask the Jose Aldo question, dude asked about having an amateur boxing fight, whatever. You have to understand why you're fighting, you know? And if you're fighting just because you like fighting and you enjoy it and cool, and that's it, and you don't care if you go into the top 10 or not, or top 5 or whatever, that's all right. But you still have to understand that fighting damages your body, damages your brain, damages, you know, who you are. It changes you. It like changes you, you know, physically. Um, and when you look at someone like Tony, dude, he's not, no matter who he fights, let's say he fights someone in the top 15, you know, let's say he fights number 18 in the world, it doesn't matter. He's not going to anything but some of the hardest dudes on the fucking planet. And you have to ask yourself, man, like, do I think I can compete with this upper echelon, these top 7 guys in the world? If you know that you can't, deep down you know, like you might say shit, but you might be a bit delusional, and you should be if you're a competitor and if you're a competitor at heart. I'm not talking about Tony per se, because I don't know him. But if you know, or your people around you know, you can't compete with these guys in the top 7, and I'm not talking about winning a fight here and there. I'm talking about you look at the top 7 guys and go, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll beat those guys. I can beat those guys. There might be 1 or 2 that might beat me. So and so will be a hard matchup. That's going to be a hard fight, but I can beat these guys. If that's not the case, he shouldn't be fighting. That's my opinion. Does he have people in his corner? And again, I don't know. I 100% don't know. I'm not criticizing. I'm not because I don't know. But does he have people in his corner that he has these conversations with? Maybe he does. And maybe they see something different that we don't. And this is another thing. Again, like when somebody asked, should Chandler have stood back up? Would I have said to him as his coach, stand back up? It's the same thing. I don't know what Tony looks like at training. I don't know if he's sparring with class guys and just looking fantastic at training. It's still, you know, and then they might know something that we don't know. That's the truth of it. My guess would be that Tony isn't the Tony of old, and that Tony has lost several steps. He's taken a few injuries in the last couple of fights. Once against Charles in his elbow. I don't know what exactly happened. It didn't look healthy. Whatever happened to his knee with that heel hook, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know that he's going to compete against those top guys in the top 10. Those guys are getting younger and he's getting older. And Aniseed said, in my opinion, the easiest fights for Charles in top 5 in top 5 would be Geichi and Conor. Charles would need only 1 takedown and it will be over. Well, I disagree with you, especially with Conor. I think Conor's jiu-jitsu is much more underrated than people give him credit for. I think his timing and his strength and his takedown defense and his ability to read the game that Conor does is very good, man. I don't know that Charles will have an easy time with Conor. And Geichi, I think, would be an easier fight. Not easy. I don't think easy fight would be the best term to use. um, because I do think there's a massive disparity on the ground and standing up. It's probably 50-50. Having said that, Geichi hits hard, very hard, and he's very, very mean dude and very hard nosed man. Players might be the more technical of the two, might be, but Geichi's got a lot of purpose. He's got a lot of. He understands what he's doing. He understands what he has to do. I don't know. I'd pay to see that fight. I'd say Charles is a favorite there. Charles and Connor's a little bit different. I think Connor's got a lot of weapons there, and I don't think it's as one sided with the grappling. Like I do think Charles is the much better grappler, but I don't think it'll be one takedown and that'll be it. And Anasid says, who would you like Tony to fight next? Hooker, Felder, Gillespie, Ferreira, or Cowboy rematch? If they're gonna fight, I think Tony and Cowboy makes the most sense to me. That's that will be indicative of where they kind of are in their respective careers. Cowboys lost a bunch on his trot, and now Tony has lost two. Tony has lost two fighting the best of the best guys. I think he and Cowboy make sense. James Hole, one. To get 30-27 Grundy, I think the judge must have mixed up the fighters. Lander had hair in this fight and doesn't usually. I kind of agree with you, James. I do kind of agree with you. I think they must have got that mixed up, honestly. Juice, talking about kicking, the first time I saw an Aldo fight, it made me go, fuck that. I'll go do boxing instead. Man, the kicks that Aldo used to throw back in the day are fucking brutal. They're brutal. Absolutely brutal kicks. Like watch Mike Brown versus Aldo. He busts my leg, but back in my legs up. James Hull says too, if you ask me to name which corner a fighter was in mid-fight, 100% I wouldn't be able to without being able to look. James Hull says 3, it's just not something to take note of. I can imagine a judge zoning out and starting to fill up the wrong box. I agree with you, James. I think I get what you're saying. No, I do. I 100% agree. Juice, does anybody know what toothpaste Oliveira uses? Jesus, no, I don't. Kenahuna, Benny Dariush just got shot up to number 3 contender for lightweight. Insane. Title run next year if he pulls off a win this winter. Well, if he pulls off a win this winter, like, which is my summer, he'd be right up there if he's number 3 already. Do you know what I mean? And he's got a big win streak as well. Eaton7 says, best MMA show. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it, man. Very flattering. Angwell says, at Aniseed, I think Islam definitely sounds dangerous for Charles. Would be fascinating to see. Yeah, I'd love to see that fight. Christian Lawrence says, happy Tuesday, Fab. Hearing you commentate reminds me of the old radio days or when Howard Cosell was commentating. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Christian Lawrence, did Oliveira's left hook remind you of Sugar Ray Robinson or another boxer? The shot was quite beautiful. Man, that the left hook, it landed. I don't know if it reminded me of Sugar Ray Robinson per se. I think a bit differently, the left hooks. But he just landed it flush, real flush. That's going back to when people saying, what should Chandler have done? Fucking flush. Do you get what I mean? Like him, the fact that he was still on his feet, impressive to me. Joseph Gonzalez says, howdy from the US. Howdy, sir. Aniseed says, is Mahashev a nightmare match for Charles? Well, we spoke about that. Michael Kovita says, Teddy Atlas said Oliveira and Chandler both got caught stepping back instead of moving lateral. Do MMA fighters step back, though, because they have to worry about kicks? I agree with what Teddy Atlas said. Like they both stepped back. I don't think one of the thing is stepping back is not wrong if you slide out of range. But sometimes people step back, but they're not out of range. They didn't take their legs with them. Teddy Atlas obviously knows a lot more about boxing than me. I don't think it's the kicks per se that the reason for that happening. It depends. There's a lot of things that happen in MMA, and so it's not that hard to to concede that people have can have overlooked certain aspects in their boxing or whatever. And a lot of times when you prepare a fighter, like even say you look at someone like Khabib, there's holes there where you can exploit. Can you exploit him, or is he going to just be able to put his best game on you and you can't do anything about it? That's another question. Um, no, it's not because they don't have to worry about kicks. They just didn't slide out of the way. You know what I mean? And that happens. That happens. It's not. It doesn't mean like you got to understand. Like that happened. It doesn't mean that it's this fucking horrendous wrong thing that happened. Not everything you're going to do in a fight is going to be perfect. And when you watch it back, it's easy to say to a fighter, "Oh, you should have had your hand here," and you don't understand. Like the guy was off balance a second before that. Then his hand didn't get to the chin in time or whatever. So it's easy to say with revisionist history, but Teddy is right. Um, Jay says, "Sorry, I'm late. Should Max Holloway fight Charles for the lightweight belt?" Um, well, I don't see the problem is Max has come up and he's lost to Dustin already. So I don't see how Max will just get the shot, excuse me, against Charles. I don't that doesn't make sense to me. Joseph Gonzalez says that's a good point on lateral movement of MMA versus boxing. Yeah, but you can still do the lateral movement in boxing, in MMA. It's just the thing is, it's easier to slide back. It's easier to move back. We move best. We move backwards second best. Laterally, not that well, and diagonally back and diagonally forward very poorly as humans. So it's going to be easier for people to move back than it is going to be for them to move laterally. And a lot of these guys don't train boxing. You know, I'm not saying Charles and Chandler don't. I'm not saying that because I don't know them, but I know that a lot of guys don't train boxing. And even some of the guys that you see with good footwork don't have good footwork when you watch them box, when you watch them in the boxing gym. It's a different science to it. And before people start going, oh no, but in MMA, you've got to watch out for all these things. Yeah, granted, but the footwork that you get from boxing and your ability to be somewhere where you're well balanced and you're able to throw a nice straight punch, that only comes from boxing and from you drilling that and from you being able to slip outside angles, and land with your feet right, you know, so you don't get caught just walking backwards. Um, Michael Kavita says it's just easier. Moving laterally is scary and people can throw kicks too. Easier to move laterally out of range of hands than away from a leg. Hard to be sure you're far enough. No, but if you can move laterally, right, you just don't have to move. It's not like, how can I say to you? You can move laterally and the person can't kick you necessarily just if you step to your left and I'm kicking with my um even if you're still in my range, it's not that easy for me to kick you if you're not in front of me like this. If you're out here to the side of me here, I can't kick you with the same kind of like force, you know. You can also crowd me where I can't kick you, and that's just from you creating angles and being able to slip in and out. Who should Hooker fight next, says Jay? Benil, maybe Benil, that would be a good fight. I favor Hooker. Nick 202, hey Fab, any thoughts on getting Jakkael Yoramira on the podcast now that you're not really going to fight Rob anytime soon? Now that they're not really going to fight Rob anytime soon. I'm not really interviewing people right now, you know. I'm kind of doing a bunch of other different things. So it's a little bit hard to organize guests and that. It's a bit of a headache, you know, like so I mean that because of a whole bunch of shit that it takes to get someone on my show. My show is not a big show, you know, it's not a really big show. I need to get my show bigger. And so it's hard to entice some of the bigger names onto a small podcast, you know. So it definitely will get people on here, but right now I'm kind of focusing on a few other things. Um, sorry, I'm just going to skip a few people. Don't feel bad if I skip you. I just want to make sure that I say get thing. Christian Lawrence says I saw Charles fight Pettis live in Vancouver, and the evolution of his style since then until now is remarkable. Is MMA possibly the only sport that allows an athlete the greatest chance of change? Not really, dude. I don't think so. You know what I mean? I think um, because we watch MMA, that's when you like, there's so many factors, there's facets of MMA that you can train, but there's no reason why a guy that played basketball mainly in the post didn't get an opportunity, doesn't have an opportunity to work on his mid-range jump shot, on his long-range jump shot, whatever. So that it's just different, you know what I mean? I think MMA, it hits you real clear. It's really, 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 really clear. Like this guy was a grappler and he was only a grappler and now he's striking as well. That's I think it's really clear like that. But I don't think it's more than any other sport. Um there's Benedict in the title, but doesn't want to fight Geichi and Dos Anjos as they are friends. I don't think that's weird, but you know what I mean. I if they train together and their thing, like I can understand him not wanting to train, not wanting to fight him. And I think I caught, which I don't usually catch. I think I caught a glimpse of one of his interviews. And this is the thing: people don't understand what goes on in the back. And people don't understand what goes on. Some people say, "Oh, the guy's my friend," but it could be that you say hi to each other when you see each other at a fight. That doesn't, you might not really want to fight that guy because you like him. You'd much rather fight someone else, and that's cool. Um, but if you're actually friends with someone, and some friends will gladly fight each other, and that's fine. But I can understand, like he was talking about Geichi helping him out, like on a personal level, like helping him out with stuff when things weren't going well in Benil's career. Helping with groceries, helping with running errands and shit like that. And so that says to me that there's a depth to that relationship, which is not, um, it's not just like, hey, we're mates, and we trained together once 3 years ago. No, that isn't the kind of relationship that they seem to have. So I think that that's not weird. I think that that's pretty normal actually. And I've spoken to Justin Gaethje before, and he's actually one of the fucking most genuine dudes that I've come across. And I'm one of the first guys to tell you, dude, fucking don't believe the bullshit. Don't meet your fucking heroes. Don't believe the bullshit you see. Like you know, don't just and he was like one of the dudes. Like when you speak to him, he's actually like pretty normal fucking dude. You know, So that's not strange to me. That doesn't seem weird. Anseed says, "Who's more dangerous off the back, Charles or Ortega?" I don't know. I don't know. Charles, to me though, has had more more MMA experience. More. He's had more fights. He's had more wins. He's had more losses, and that makes you very dangerous. It means you know the game. You know the game really, really well. Um, who has a better chance to control Charles on the ground, Gillespie or Islam? Ooh, Aniseed, you and your questions. I definitely think that Gillespie is a dark horse in that division. That's all I can say on that. I think Gillespie's a bad motherfucker, dude. Like he's good, but he's getting a bit long in tooth as well himself. Muzak says greetings from Triple X Fight Academy, Fab. Shout out to Triple X Fight Academy. Lots of love, mate. Like those guys down there. Aniseed, in your opinion, how does a hypothetical match between Charles and Khabib play out? Well, I mentioned it earlier. Again, this is just my opinion. We're just talking shit here. But I think it's interesting because I don't know if Khabib w- will be. I'm sure Khabib backs himself. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think will be like to the ground readily and quickly once he's in the fight. I think he'll probably feel comfortable um, beforehand because he trains with good guys too. They all train. Everyone trains with good guys. Forget that. Everyone trains with good guys. But once he gets in there, he may feel something with Charles where he may not be that comfortable on the ground, and or that he might come out more even on the ground than he may have at first thought. Um, and so then that becomes a situation where that fight might get played out on its feet more than anything. Charles might feel that from Khabib as well. Like Khabib might get him down. Charles may be able to neutralize it somewhat, and that allows Charles to open up his game even more. Don't forget, Khabib, he bashed a lot of guys, but he was on the ground with a lot of guys for a while, 3, 4, 5 rounds. Like Michael Johnson, I think 3 rounds. Connor 4, Dustin 4. It's not outside the realm of possibility that Charles can survive quite well on the ground if those guys could. Connor didn't do a bad job at times. At times, he didn't do a bad job. Dustin at times did well. Don't get me wrong. I would favor Khabib, but it's not a foregone conclusion against someone like Charles. And a lot of things can happen way down too with someone like Charles. Brutus M, thank you so much, sir. Says super sticker. Guys, thank you so much for the support. I really, really appreciate it, man. It's very, very touching. It's massive. It's huge for us. Like it keeps the channel going. Thanks to you guys. The support is incredible, guys, and I just say thank you. Also, guys, when the channel was deleted, the amount of support that came back from everyone, like YouTube didn't delete it. I'm not going to go into it too much, but like the amount of support from people, the amount of messages, etc., that I received was huge, and it kept the channel. Like we were able to get the channel back, and it was good. And man, thank you so much. Brutus M with another one. Brutus out of nowhere with another super sticker. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it, man. I really, really appreciate the supporters. Aniseed says, if Nate loses to Leon, do you like a fight between Tony and Nate? Or if Connor loses to Poirier, would you like Tony versus Connor? But Leon and Nate are at welterweight. I don't know if Nate will come back to lightweight. Do I like a fight between Tony and Nate? I think Nate beats Tony. And if you're talking about Tony to welterweight, I think Nate will smash him. Back at lightweight, I think Nate will beat him too. But that's me. I don't know. Would I like to see Tony versus Connor? Man, not really, man. Because fuck, Connor's still young, man. Connor's in the prime of his life, and Tony is 37 years old, man. Bilal Hassan says, "Love your work and your personality, Fab." Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for doing what you do. What did you make of Chandler until he got dropped? Also, would you match him up with next? Love from the US. Lots of love to you, Bilal. Now, what do I make? Oh, man, I thought Chandler was a fucking monster in that fight. To be honest with you, I was going for Charles. My heart's with Charles. Like I said, I trained with Charles in Brazil, but Chandler fucking impressed me, man. Like honestly impressed me. To get he didn't have a lot of problems with Charles on the ground. Like Charles took his back, sunk the hooks in, and the rest of it. But that's Charles, and the way Chandler just spun back out and got in, and then he was comfortable, didn't think like that. I was really impressed. I mean, his striking is what it is, man. He hasn't got a vast vocabulary of strikes. He's more tactical than he is technical. And he does, but the reality is his striking's the straight right to the body, the overhand right, and the step through left hook. He's susceptible to the calf kick because he's got a wide stance, but it's narrow. It's a wide, narrow stance. It allows him to get in and out real quick, and it allows him to close this because he's a short guy. It allows him to close that distance when he steps through, right? So he steps through back into a wide stance, and he's able to deliver that big left hook. So it's very tactile more than it is technical necessarily, and that's not. I'm not having a go at him. I fucking I wish I'd accomplished half of what Chandler has athletically, So I'm just putting that out there. So I was super impressed, Having said all of that, whilst it's not a huge bag of tricks, he makes you pay if you get it wrong. And he almost made Charles pay. Who would I match him up with next? Love from the US. Right back at you, sir. I would probably like to see him fight. Honestly, I'd like to see him fight Dustin O'Connor, but any one of those guys in that top 5, 6 would be cool. I'd love to see him watch any of them. I'd love to watch him fight any of those guys. Anisid says if Nate wins versus Leon, he will get a title shot instead of Colby due to his star power. Possibly, possibly, possibly. Colby and Nate would be an interesting fight too, if he beats Leon. SSJ says, sub fab, nice hoodie. Thank you, sir. Right back at you. Christian Lorenz says, will you do a live commentary for the Font versus No Love card this weekend? Why, sir, of course I will. I most definitely will. I may even do a lead up to it. You know what I mean? So yeah, for sure. So yeah, I definitely will. That's going to be a crazy fight, man. I think Font, his boxing's pretty fucking tidy. And so's Cody's. Like Cody had like 30 or 40 amateur boxing fights to go along with an amateur wrestling career. Um, he's and Font hits hard. So it's going to be a good fight. I love those fights like that. Zach Adams, have you subscribed to Craig Jones fans yet? Ah, ha, 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 ha. I don't know what that means. I really, I'm sorry. Not that good with the social media stuff. I don't know what the OnlyFans stuff means. Anna Seed says, is Damian Maia the most dangerous guy to deal with on the ground in MMA history? Well, no, because I think Charles has got the most submission wins, hasn't he? Or something crazy like that. I think there's a lot of dangerous guys on the ground. I think Jakkael at one stage, nobody wanted to go on the fucking ground with Jakkael, man. Damian Maia has also been out grappled as well. Jake Shields out grappled him. He's been put on his back a few times and it hasn't worked out that well. Damian Maia's jiu-jitsu is unreal for MMA. He does a really good job. I don't know. Hey, there's a lot of good guys. There's a lot of good guys that come to my mind like that when you were talking about it. Some of them weren't great jiu-jitsu guys, like great in the jiu-jitsu world, but on the ground were just monsters, dude. Like in MMA, Nogueira at the height of him fighting, Nogueira wasn't a guy that was like a Damian Maia or Marcelo Garcia or anything like that, but he had such a good chin. He had good boxing. He was so tough, and on the ground, he created a lot of problems for people in MMA. In MMA, I'm talking about at the height. At his very, very when he was at his very best. I don't know. I don't know. Brock Lesnar's a fucking monster on the ground. You know what I mean? When he get people and he'd get on top of people on the ground. Damian Maia is certainly up there. He's certainly up there. He's a fantastic guy. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut. That boxing footwork you are is a big Shotokan thing. Sorry, man. You're going to have to jab, cross, hook, uppercut. Can you write that again? Sorry, man, to be a teacher. I just want to make sure when we're having the conversation that I understood what you said correctly, because otherwise I'm going to say something that's going to be wrong. So if you could write that back up, we'll address it in a second. Frankie says we need a cult of fab hoodies. Hey, listen to me for real. We are rebranding this show. We're rebranding it. We're changing a whole bunch of stuff on it. And so refrain from buying any hoodies now, because we will be buying hoodies that will reflect the new name, the new brand, everything. So I'm working on that right now. We will be changing the name. Everything will be changing. So yeah, we will be rebranding. Anna Seed says Derek Lewis, the only guy who can KO Ngannou. I think there's a lot of guys that can KO Ngannou in heavyweight division. Are they going to find his chin before he finds theirs? Nick 202 says lies fab. This is the biggest MMA show of all time. No bias at all. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Jay says, who wins if they fought each other in an Anzac showdown? Justin Tafa or Tai Tuivasa? I think Ty is looking really good right now, man. Tafa's no joke, man. His stand-up's real fucking good, man. But Tuivasa's right now, he looks good. Sir Lancelot, not MMA related at all. What's a good way to calm teenagers down? Working with a bunch. Hope you're going well, Fab. Um, Sir Lancelot, I've worked a lot with kids, like underprivileged kids, different types of different kids, and that it just depends on the group of kids. I think the biggest thing for me, it's like no different to anyone else. I think you have to find something that they're interested in, like reinforcement loops around that. Like I was just thinking about the other day. I was just thinking like, people take, for example, they take marijuana. Years ago, smoking marijuana, having marijuana plants or whatever, extremely illegal. It was a crime, whatever, 15 years ago, 20, whatever. Nowadays, it's borderline legal in some states, and all that changed was whether it was legal or not. And I think it's the same kind of thing when you're addressing that with you're working with a group of kids. You can bash your head up against a wall because you're getting them to do activities that they're not going to do well in, they're not interested in, and you're just creating this negative loop. If you find stuff that they like, that they're interested in, and that they buy into, then they're going to know that you give a shit about them, and then they're going to buy into what you do. Then later on, if you start introducing little things, then they'll start to listen to you more. You know what I mean? So I think the biggest thing is finding the stuff that they like, that they will do, and creating positive loops around that. That's what I believe, anyways. Django Bango says, Adana said, I definitely think Maya has the most well-rounded game of BJJ for MMA, but just because of his longevity and success. Absolutely, man. That's his longevity is a very, very interesting thing as well when you're saying that. Juice, at Sir Lancelot, meditation before the class starts, close your eyes and just get them to breathe for a few minutes. Maybe. Jab cross, hook uppercut. Dan Henderson said it was making money with friends. Yeah, I remember him saying that, but Dan Henderson is fucking mad as a fucking cut snake. Not everyone sees it that way. Sorry, guys, I'm just going to skip a couple here. Brad Galea, the people's champion. Brad Galea, do you have any good stories in your time at the Tough House as a coach? Was it what you expected? Um, thank you very much. Hey, thank you very much for the support, Brad. I really, really appreciate it, man. Um, thank you, man. I really, really appreciate the support. Now, was it what I expected? Yeah, it was kind of what I expected. Um, Me personally, I didn't enjoy it that much. I had good relationships with most of the people there, in particular with Juan Espino. It was funny because like our team was like the United Nations, everyone like a bunch of them didn't speak English, and I could speak Spanish and I can understand Portuguese, so I was kind of like the translator more than anything. Um, the European people could speak English as well, though that was pretty good, but we had a Brazilian, we had a Cuban, we had a few people, two Brazilians, a Cuban. We had a few, Juan, who was a Spaniard from Cayman Islands. So there was a few people that didn't speak English, and I kind of translated it for it. I had to be the translator. Um, I'm not the no. I didn't really like. Did I enjoy it? I enjoyed being in Vegas. I enjoyed the experience. Um, It wasn't exactly what I would have wanted it to be. Rob was injured at the time; he had a broken hand, so we couldn't really use it for his own training as much as we would have liked to. Um, yeah, it wasn't like for me. It wasn't the best time. Like it wasn't like I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being around people like Sergio Pena and Duda, his son Eduardo Pena. With Eduardo all the time. He just fucking tapped me for fucking 8 weeks. It was brutal. He almost got done for attempted murder a couple of times. But he's a little guy. You're going to hear about him. Probably the bantamweight in the future. Not many people are going to be better than him. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. His father, Sergio Pena, is one of the best jiu-jitsu guys to ever do it. So he's a black belt under his dad, two-time All-American wrestler. Serious, serious cat on the ground. That's all I can say out of that one. Mason Klatt says That's a instructionals, Fab. I haven't bought any, but I've looked through some. Django Bango says Gillespie looks small at 155, but man, that Ferreira fight was wild. Man, that's what you got to think, eh? Because Ferreira has really good jiu-jitsu, and Gillespie ended up getting the better of it. So, fuck, Gillespie is no joke. I wanted to see him fight Riddell. I want to see that fight still happen. Jab, hook, cross, hook, uppercut. Australian $20. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for fucking helping out, for supporting the channel, for watching. Man, thank you so much, man. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Aniseed says Khabib might just press Charles like Justin to test his gas tank and might eat the shots from Charles like he did against Geichi. Different kind of fighters, man. Different kind of fight. Different kind of. You can't just eat the shots either. It wasn't Khabib's plan to eat the shots from Justin. And again, like it's how you get hit. You know, if it's hit right and right on the button, doesn't matter who you are, you're going to go out. So it was never the plan to eat the shots. He might do that. He might, but they're different types of fighters. They're very, very different. Charles and Geichi are completely different. Completely different fighters. Also, you got to remember, Charles can go for takedowns on Khabib with more or less impunity. He can shoot a double and drop the guard whenever he wants. That's not an issue. He has other weapons available to him that Geichi didn't. You know, he can be much more aggressive against Khabib. Doesn't mean that I think you'll win. I'm just saying to you, it's a different type of thing. Bilal says, don't you think Gregor Gillespie is a little too small for the big boys like Dustin, Benil, Charles at 155? His wrestling is impeccable, but unlike Islam and Khabib, he's a little on the smaller end. He does look like that. I will give you that. He does look like that. But I don't know until you actually, grab someone, and he might look small, but then also he might not have as big of a weight cut, and that might play into his advantage as well. Other than the Kevin Lee fight, he hasn't really had a loss, so he can't be that bad, Jenga Bango says he looks more like a featherweight fighter. He does look smaller, I'll tell you that. Jenga Bango says, I don't know anything about Gregor, but he still seems balls deep in the wrestling world. He's at like every big event. Not that that's bad. He just isn't super active in MMA. I think that's good though, Jenga Bango, because I think a lot of wrestlers fall away from wrestling. And so their wrestling level starts to drop. And what was once a strength and now kind of evens out with everyone else. So I think it's great that he's still involved in that in the wrestling world. Aniseed says is Charles versus and man, the guy that he beat last Ferreira is no joke, So he's still obviously doing the right things. Aniseed says is Charles versus Islam the closest we can get to Tony versus Khabib. Probably it is, something like that. Ophon says I'm still shocked. Oliveira had dude, he's a long kind of spindly guy, big hands. He does have big hands, big feet. But the thing is, man, you only have to get hit on the button. That's what people don't understand. You don't have to get hit that hard. You just have to get hit flush on the button. And he hit him with that left hook flush. Sorry, guys, I'm going to skip a few. Sorry, boys. Okay, Wonderboy versus Burns. Thoughts? Where does Wonderboy fit into the welterweight title picture? Well, I think that if Wonderboy beats Burns, then he's right in that picture. He's right there. And I do think that Wonderboy can beat Burns. I think that the way that they match up, I think Burns has to be able to get him down. I mean, Burns might be able to catch him with punches too. It can happen, but he has to catch him. I don't think he's going to outbox or outstrike Wonderboy. He can catch him for sure. He's got powerful shots, but yeah, I don't see him thing. And so if Wonderboy beats him, he's right there. He should get shot. I will, but I think he should. What did Chandler do wrong? Says emotionless artist. Technically, oh man, it's man. All the analysts are going to come out the day after the fight, and tell you what he did wrong. To be honest with you, in my opinion, like he at the moment he did the right things, man. He got out of the Charles had the best possible position. Charles had it. Chandler got out of it. Chandler dropped Charles. Chandler ground and pounded Charles. Chandler ground and pounded him from the ground. And then he got caught with the left hook at the start of the second round. He did get caught moving backwards, like Teddy Atlas said. He stepped back and he ate that left hook. It's a fight, man. It's a fight. So and that fight was like I said, it was crazy. Both of those guys got each other in exactly the spot they needed it, and it was just backwards and forwards. So it wasn't like he did something horrendously wrong technically. There were mistakes made, but it's not accurate to say he did this wrong. He should have done that in the heat of the battle. Ofon says, I'm clueless on who wins between Font and Gabran. Font is big and has like a 6-inch reach, though. I'm backing Font. I am. I think they both got good boxing, but I think Gabran's a little bit chinny. Brutus M says, Fab, love my Grange TV shirt and hoodie. You keep it real, my favorite podcast. Thank you, sir. Thank you, man. Thank you very much, man. Thank you for all the support, man. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, man, I really appreciate all the support, people that supported on PayPal. Um, I can't even say, you know what I mean? It was so much. It's so good to have. So thank you to everyone that supported on PayPal. Thank you to everyone that supports, on YouTube. It's huge, man. Thank you so much. Um, Emotionless artist says Gregor looked bad in my opinion. Man, he's a wrestler, grappler, and he was fighting a dude that's unreal, really, really, really good jiu-jitsu. And it was tough in there, and he nutted it out and kept going and won that fight. So it shows you have to be pretty fucking good on the ground to get the better of Gregor. Charles versus McGregor. I'm already predicting the future, and I see Charles winning and shocking the world. Could be, could be. Yeah, I agree with you, Ofon. I don't think it would shock a lot of people. I think Charles can definitely beat McGregor. Django Banger says Gregor was wobbled going to his stool, but he's always fun to watch win or lose, I think. Yeah, 100%. Anna said, do you think that in a hypothetical matchup, Charles can do to Khabib what Werdum did to Fedor? He could, but it's different because Werdum, when he fought Fedor, you have to understand Werdum's like the man in jiu-jitsu. Charles is not Werdum's level of jiu-jitsu. You know, Werdum was multiple times world champion and blah 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 blah. Beat everyone. Charles is not. Fedor is different. Fedor had a marked disadvantage on the ground against Werdum, in my opinion. He was much more the slugger, whereas Charles is not really a slugger per se. I think they're very even on the feet, Charles and Khabib. This is a blanket statement. We're not breaking down the fight and saying who has a better advantage. I could see Khabib knocking him out too. What Werdum did to Fedor, but he could easily. That could easily happen for sure. Christian Lorenz says, if no love can KO Font, should he face the loser of Sandhagen versus TJ or the loser of Sterling versus Yan? Oh man, I don't know. I don't know with that one, man. They're tough fucking fights. What you just said then is like tough fights. You gotta be careful what you wish for if you're Cody. Cody can beat anyone, but again, he's another guy that I saw in real life, and he was little, like he was like a little guy. Yeah, I don't know. Who is a more devastating leg kicker, Aldo or Geichi? I think kick for kick, it could be either one. But at their height, like at the height of their game, Aldo was a fucking monster, dude. Because he didn't just do the kick. This is what you got to understand. Whereas Geichi's kind of like comes in forward. He's got his hands up. He's a tough guy. He just takes a shot, kicks your leg, takes a shot, kicks your leg. It's brutal. It's crazy to watch. That's Geichi. Aldo would come in and throw 1-2, rip to the liver, and then that right kick. And that's like that Dutch combination. And he would throw that, hurt you to the liver, hurt you to the head. Your hands are up, and he's ripping into that leg. So in that scenario, in that way, I think Aldo. Um, what do you think of Paulo? Okay, well, I'm assuming that what you're saying is will Paulo be the middleweight champion? To be honest with you, man, to be honest with you, and I've got no disrespect to Paulo, he actually shocked me when I saw him in real life. He's a fucking big guy. I don't think he beats Rob or Israel. That's my honest truth. I don't see him beating either one of those guys. I see him struggling with Gastelum, to be honest with you. I see him struggling with people that can put straight punches down the pipe. Fast hands, straight punches down the pipe, good jabs. He's going to struggle. He with Kelvin might be a little bit different because Kelvin's short and hasn't got that massive reach that an Israel does, or even Rob. You know, they're closer to the same reach. But yeah, I see him struggling with those guys, to be honest with you. Bilal says, smash that like button, boys. Please smash the like button. Hit the notification bell, tell your friends, and share the podcast. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Okay, jab, cross, hook, uppercut says that boxing footwork you're talking about is a big thing in Shotokan, in and out, and creating angles, etc. It's actually really good that you mentioned that because Shotokan has a lot of kicks. You know, it's full contact karate, so that you can't move laterally when there's kicks. So you can definitely move laterally when there's kicks. So it's a good thing that jab, cross, hook, uppercut said that. Christian Lorenz says, could you see Tony return to 170 to give his body a break, maybe 1 or 2 fights and retire? One 170 is some big boys, man. Some big mean boys there as well. Like it's not. I think that Tony has and the other thing is like big wrestlers at 170 will be a bigger problem for Tony. You know, like I think that I don't know if he should retire or not, but I don't think that you're going to see the Tony of old back again like that. No, not consistently. Two Joint says Oliveira really consistent, and then this KO sub streak is amazing, brother. Yes, sir, it was. Brutus M says, I enjoy the podcast, Fab. You keep it real, man. My favorite podcast. Thank you, sir. Thank you, mate. Chris Hansen, please stop, mate. Please, please. We all like you, Chris. That's enough, mate. That's just about enough. HMS Platypus says, Oliveira's left hook was so clean. Time to stop sleeping on his striking. Yeah, I don't know if people sleep on his striking, Platypus. I don't know if they do. Heroin Father says, is Tony done? I think Super Skunk, Tony Ferguson's career is far more memorable than Khabib's padded record. I don't agree. El Kakui has more fights in the night than Khabib has fights in the UFC. I think, in answer to both those things, I think Tony is very memorable and it's really easy. And he's had a lot of fantastic fights. I don't think Khabib's got a padded record. Do I think Dana will keep the $75,000 bonuses? He should. Chris Hansen, do you think Joshua Fate is clapping Diego's cheeks? I don't know the story about the Joshua Fabia situation and that. I don't know. I don't know about the whole not what you're saying, but I don't know the story there. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly what the situation is between them all because I think a lot of the times what people put out there is not really necessarily what he does or says or is like in with Diego. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how much of that is put on by Fabia. I really don't. So yeah, that's the situation. I don't know. And yeah, whatever it is, it is. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much. It's been a really good one. I'm going to try and do another one on Friday and the lead the fights. I want to try and start doing the 1FC fights as well if I can work out the time scheduling for it. I will do that. And I definitely want to get on the boxing cards. And hey, let me know. Also, I wanted to ask you guys before, especially the Australians that live on the East Coast. Let me know what you think. I was thinking of doing the state of origins. What do you guys think? What's your take on that? Emilio says PFL. Dude, I would do the PFL, no problems, man. You know what it is? It's just like a lot of them are held at the same time or within minutes of each other, so you miss kind of half the card or whatever. So I will do the PFL, I will do ONE FC. ONE FC generally is on a Friday night for me, so it doesn't clash with the UFC, which is smart on their part because people can watch both. A lot of the boxing and a lot of stuff that I want to do are on the same day. Then that affects it. Mitch Wheeler says, "Do I see Jakkael coming back from this injury?" From my understanding of the Jakkael injury, it was a humeral break, so it broke the humerus. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know with that. Um, I mean, he can come back from the injury, yeah, but the dude's 42, man. Again, I just have to ask why. You know what I mean? I love watching him fight. I don't want to keep seeing him get hurt and all of that. Okay, cool. So Emilio Juice down for the state of origin. I'm just curious. I don't know. I don't know if I'll do it, but I'm just curious if what people's take is on that. Oliver Ekman says, "Hey Fab, how you doing? I'm good, man. I'm very very good. How are you, my friend? I'm really good. Yeah, man. So that's me. Thank you so much. I'll let you know if I'm going to do something on Friday. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for everything, and I hope to catch you guys soon. Like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Um, so I will catch you very very soon, guys. Thank you very much. Take care. Much